Hi, True Crime Grapevine fans. It's me, Patty Lee, here with our daily True Crime. Look at my glasses falling down my head. True Crime Grapevines, Tuesday, September 19th. So I am nobody special. I'm just like you. I'm very interested, shall we say, almost obsessed with what's going on the true crime. So this is where I tell you what I was watching all day long as a stay at home mom who doesn't have a lot of kids who stay at home anymore. So it's just me, my crime cats, my little dog, and yeah, all the crime, all the time. I watch the YouTube uh, before I go to bed at night. I doom scroll on Twitter, and again, just like you, I like to talk about it, and not everybody in my everyday life cares about what happened. But if you do, I'm here for you to gossip about what's on the true crime grapevine. And hopefully, along the way, we can be respectful, but also learn and, yeah, and learn how to stay uh, so this doesn't happen to us, hopefully. And yeah, that's probably, if you're like me, that's why you're listening. Can we get some tips on how this won't happen to us? So, what do we have for tonight? There have been some really crazy things. So, last weekend, there was a case at a Bronx daycare in which one little 1 year old boy was unalived, was fentanyl related. There's probably one of the YouTubers I'm not supposed to say. But it's important that we know how, if you don't already know, but it's very poisonous. And I'll tell you, there was a federal filing for the people involved, and I've got that story for you. We also have, this is kind of interesting. So I put this under bad Mormons because I don't know what's going on, but we've got a lot of fundamentalist behavior, and it's really weird how sometimes these people who hold themselves up to be traditional people, and we know the Mormon religion is fine, but these outliers, these fundamentalists of any religion, or not even just religion, any creed can be, that's the people we end up talking about, right? Um, this person, you're not going to believe this. It's related to that movie that was just out about child, let's say, what's going by my house over back here. Traffic is outside. So if you can imagine, um, those two words put together, which I'm sure YouTube won't like. Yeah, this guy was involved in, it's so strange. He wasn't in the military, but he was doing, like, he was organizing jumps to go into areas that was where there was lots of traffic, so he could save kids. But then to save them, they had to procure them by pretending to be somebody who would want to be with them. And I guess there was some actual touching of some. You guys, people, you can't make this stuff up. And this guy wanted to run for senator in Utah. I heard about this on the Mormon Stories podcast, and it just got my attention because it was sort of Lori Vallow like, and it sort of reminds me of Corey Richins, which not score. That was another one, not Corey Richins, Jody Hillebrand, in that this guy was evoking the name of the church. And for once, there was this Vice article I'll tell you about, but the authors actually got a response from the Mormon Church, which I don't know if you guys know this, but the Mormon Church is like the CIA. They give those statements of like cannot confirm or deny. Now, oh, they did deny any relationship between one of their elders and this Tim Ballard, who was trying to use his name and even had a flowchart for making money off of his relationship with this higher up in the Mormon Church. And this is one case when the Mormon Church was like, no, thank you. So we will talk about that. Um, and okay, we'll probably talk about this more because this just happened today. I've watched two lives on it, but I'm really sorry to the officials in Delphi, Indiana, but the thing that was uploaded is still there. And so if you search for it, you can find it. And I'm not saying it's up on Scribed and I downloaded it. I'm not saying that. But it was supposed to be sealed and somebody released it. And now it's all over the interwebs. So I am not going to be sharing it, just like my friend Gizla K, who doesn't know she's my friend because, she doesn't know me. But hey, Gizla K, she's the Grizzly True Crime host and is super professional. It is her full-time job. She has great graphics. She does like how I taught, which is I'm very visual. So I would have maps and I would have bullet points. I'm not able to do that yet on YouTube. I don't know if you noticed. I'm just barely able to get on. Like I said, I am just like you guys. But Gizla K, she is in the Netherlands and she was talking about this case and she also got a hold of it. She very nicely called them and said, what can I show and what can't I show? Because she's a professional. I'm not going to show any of it, but we're going to talk a little bit about it. But I really wanted to make sure I was getting the accuracy. And I have to tell you, I'm dyslexic. And so I'm like twice exceptional because whatever, tested well in intelligence, but dyslexic. So I like to see and read visual with the auditory. Like I might even read out loud. I make a lot of notes on the side. The stuff that's in this document, you guys, it's insane. So we'll talk a little bit about that, but we're going to be talking more about that because the document was 136 pages and it was entered by the defense for Richard Allen, but it had a lot of corroboration for their claims, evidence that they were putting forward. And I agree with Gizla K. I agree with Peter Tragos. This isn't like Richard Allen gets out of prison tomorrow, but this is not very good. Reasonable doubt seems to be there, which is it's and you won't believe the reason why. I'll just tell you, if you watch Thor and his hammer in the is it Marvel movies, yeah, you'll have some background knowledge for this. You may have heard of Odin. And actually, I looked up because, and I tweeted this at both Peter Tragos, the lawyer, go follow him. He's great. And Gizla K, a YouTuber who does true crime under the Grizzly True Crime channel. Go follow her. You guys, these groups, Odinites, have been around since 2017. And that's when these things occurred. But before that, there was a article I found about them as domestic. Let's say it's Halloween and you have a lot of terror like that. Yeah, the person in Norway, I don't know if you remember that crime. Norway has very little crime, and somebody went out into an island where there were campers and unalived a bunch of people. It was very unusual. He was an Odinist. So we'll be learning a lot about Norse mythology, Norse, Vikings, Scandinavian. In fact, Hitler believed that the Germans were directly descended from the Vikings, and he felt like that was, Aryan nation. You've heard of the Aryan people in prisons, the gangs, the Aryan gangs. Oh, and speaking of gangs in prison, apparently we have allegedly in Indiana people wearing patches that are the guards. Yes. It's just insane. So that's the Delphi case. So let's go back. If you have anything, pour one out. This is going to be a crazy one. So there was a woman, Gray, only it's spelled Grei, Mendez, in the Bronx, who just started a daycare this year. And she did get it licensed through the state of New York. She was visited 3 times, and the last time was September 9th on a surprise visit, and she passed each visit. There were at least, I don't know, usually you have to have over 6 kids for it to be a licensed daycare. So I don't know if she had 7 children, but it was in her apartment. But in her apartment, there, it's unclear. I don't even understand how big her apartment could be in the Bronx that she had a daycare center there. But you do have to have enough space. So I'm not sure how it was configured. But she also had a boarder, somebody who was renting from her there as well. And he had just gotten there from the Dominican Republic. He was the cousin of her husband, I believe is the relationship there. And he arrived right before this daycare center, or like about the same time as they started this daycare center in the house. So, Gray Friday, it was nap time. And after nap time, so like from noon, you have lunch, and then you put down these little, and they're small children, 8-month-old, a year old, 2 years old. I think that's the oldest. Was there a 4-year-old? There's one child that wasn't named how old they were, it just said another child. So an 8-month-old, a 2-year-old, another child, and a 1-year-old. Wow. So they took their naps at 2:40 up to around 2:40. She couldn't wake them up. And it said that they were lethargic, which means like dopey, acting like, and then it said they were unresponsive. So I don't know if they started out lethargic and then when the police got there, they were unresponsive. But here's what she did. First, did she call 911? Oh, no. First, she calls her husband. Now, she deletes 21,000 messages to her husband on an encrypted app. And by the way, if you think anything is encrypted that the police can't get into, if you've done something bad enough, like Rex Heuermann is alleged to have done, or this Gray Mendez, they will get into your phone. They can get all that stuff. So don't think you're hiding anything. So don't delete stuff. But she had called him and was telling him stuff went down. And then she called one other person, or maybe 2 other people, and then she called one other person, then called 911, and then was on the phone to some other people. Her husband, before 911 came with an ambulance, her husband had come running in, grabbed 2 bags full that they saw, I guess, on some sort of Ring camera, went out with 2 bags full, weighted down, very heavy, and then instead of going out the door, went out the back way into the alley and took off before the emergency services arrived. The emergency services arrive and realize that the children look like they've had a drug overdose. They administer Narcan. The 2-year-old, the 8-month-old, and the another child are all saved by the Narcan. But a 1-year-old, his name, I know I wrote it down. Let me find it. The 1-year-old was the one who didn't make it. A 1-year-old little boy. So 2 days ago, Gray was charged with the murder of that child. Let me tell you why. So when they looked around the house for what the children could have gotten into, what they realized was there was a brick of fentanyl that was located either near or on the mats that the children took their naps on in the closet. So Gray, industrious as she was, because they also found 3 pill pressers, and pill pressers are like, machines to make pills out of, let's say, bricks of fentanyl, so that you could, I don't know, sell them. But you get a little bit of the dust anywhere. I guess Gray wasn't an obsessive clean freak. And it just little specks of it, if you touch it to your skin, it's absorbed. It can kill you. It can give you an overdose, an opiate overdose. So obviously it must have gotten on the children's mats. And as it got on their skin, it poisoned them. So the little 1-year-old, unfortunately, did not make it. So she's charged with murder of the 1-year-old boy. I will find his name. I know I wrote it down here somewhere. I want to say Nicholas. Why can't I find it? Anyway, and they kept saying her co-conspirator. So her husband is the co-conspirator that they can't find. The other man that was also charged was her husband's or co-conspirator's cousin, whose name is Carlos. Uh, it looks like Ace Acevedo, and his last name is like Biento, Brito. Yeah, easy for me to say. Anyway, she is 36. He is 41. I don't have how old her husband is, but anyways, yeah. So now they're thinking there was a press conference today in the New York the southern state of New York's attorney general was talking about they are going after these federal charges related to conspiracy to distribute narcotics resulting in a death. And the minimum is what's the minimum? 20. The minimum is 20 years. The maximum is life in prison. And then she also has a murder charge. So, but will this bring this baby boy back? It most certainly will not. And she was a licensed daycare provider. You think you're leaving your kid someplace safe. And now they think maybe the whole thing was just a front because it was started when the cousin moved in and maybe he brought the product or was helping, whatever. So it seems like whatever. The husband still missing. But they said they're gonna find him. He can't hide too long. But yeah, how horrible is that? That you have to worry. I mean, what idiot has a brick of fentanyl and puts it on the kids' napping playmats? Unbelievable. And they found 3 it just sorry. All right. Drink. All right. Second story. There's a man, allegedly he's a man. He's more of a DICK. In my opinion, my speculation. Tim Ballard. So Mormon Stories podcast reviewed had on the 2 journalists, and I went and followed them. They're Vice journalists, Anna Merian, spelled Merian, and Tim Marchman. Hi Kate the Great. Go watch this, Kate. You will love it. This was Mormon Stories podcast interviewing the Vice, the authors of the Vice article about Tim Ballard. And Tim Ballard ran this, and it all starts like this, right? Ran a charity. And one of the guys who went on his jumps, who went on his operations to go down to Haiti, or they went down to Mexico to help save trafficked kids. But do you know how they helped them? Well, they went down there where they knew that people were selling this service, and they asked for these children. I mean, they didn't grab them and it's also confusing. So they went to, in trying to save children who were trafficked, they had to touch children. And some of the women they're like, it's a covert operation. Okay, these people, not military, not government, not state government, not federal government, maybe government in their own minds. I don't know. It is insanity that they went on these paramilitary, so not real military, like jaunts to save trafficked kids, but to do it, they had to pose as Johns. Anybody here smelling any, I don't know, bullshit? I mean, so you have to be a John to get the kid to save? And one of the guys who went with him, who I guess they have him on tape. This is all so insane. This guy touched a 16-year-old girl's front. Let me just say it in a non-disgusting way. And he's like, yeah, she's 16. Like, dude, you're saving kids who are being trafficked. And they took women with them. They said they had to have them pose as their wives. So they had to like sleep with them, take showers with them. Like, okay, again, this is like a scam where guys get girls to sleep with them under the guise of you're helping me do this secret mission. And part of the secret mission is I have to, touch little kids, but we're saving them. Okay. They didn't. The really freaky thing was the guy who produced the movie. So it was and put in all the money. So that movie about, what was it called? I ignored it because I heard right away. It was funded by these Mormon church leaders, and this guy Hutchinson, I believe his name is, was the one who went down and had to check out the 16-year-old's goods because he was helping save her from being trafficked. I don't know, and they would set up situations to film that made it look that way because it all sounds like a scam, in my opinion, allegedly, but they weren't like the movie, I guess, was they went into the jungle, they went to a camp where kids are being held and they saved them. One guy. This is a bunch of rich guys going down to areas where there's known like red light districts and picking up children to save them and taking women with them because that's what a John looking for a child to be trafficked, they'd have their good looking wife with them. So come on, honey, let's pretend. But all of it seems like guys who are trying to take advantage. It's disgusting. So Vice was writing these articles because this Tim Ballard was trying to run for, he was going to run for the Utah Senate seat that Mitt Romney now is he's not running again. And people are getting a little nervous. And this Tim Ballard was saying he had an in with this elder at the Mormon church. And this guy's name is also Ballard. And I don't know. I don't think they're related. I don't know if that's a common name like Smith. I'm not sure about that. But what I am sure about is he was saying, no, I'm not doing this. Oh, his organization was called Our, OUR, and I forget what it was. But his whole organization was about saving these kids, but to save them, again, I told you, it was just so weird. I don't know how it's legal that people were funding these trips to save children, and yet somehow they were also, to save them, they had to abuse them. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So anyways, I'm going to read that Vice article more closely. I watched the podcast. I was interested because how did this guy know where to find these trafficked kids to do these jumps, these operations? Oh, he talked to a psychic. Yeah, that I believe, we're not sure how she was paid, but maybe through the church. Her name was Janice Russin, and she's a psychic medium, and she would tell them, and she talked to Nephi. That's how she knew where they could go find these children. Do you guys remember who else was talking to Nephi, who was like Nephi? That's right, Lori Vallow. And, Jody Hildebrand, she had dreams and revelations, maybe from Nephi. Nephi is also very vengeful. So, right up Jody Hildebrand's alley, in my opinion, just my speculation. So, but this Janice Russin would talk to Nephi. And so this Tim Ballard, who's running for a Senate seat in Utah, was dealing with this woman who spoke to Nephi. And he talked about the Nephi helps us, and the end of days are coming. This person wants to be a senator who believes in you guys, this is why separation of church and state exists. It's not because we don't want one religion to be so powerful in an area that they can squash any abuse allegations, that they could fund some weird trips, even maybe even being unaware, or they could, get in good with a therapist who they feel is really Mormon and not know that she's really also very violent towards kids, like Jody, allegedly. Don't sue me, just my speculation. So it's weird that this one case has a lot of similarities to the Jody Hildebrand case, to the Lori Vallow case. And in all these cases, the government officials seem not to want to intervene because most of them are Mormon and they see people like parents' rights. You raise your family how you want, and they know you're Mormon, so you must be doing you must be okay. And everything's kept in house. And that's the problem with having a single religion become the state. There's too much overlay. And speaking of religions and states, we have a problem in Delphi, Indiana. This is our third case. And again, we have to read more. This 136 page, what do we call it? It was submitted. It is a affidavit. It is a motion. One for a Frank hearing, and a Frank hearing has to do when the police have kept evidence that could be exculpatory, meaning it could provide reasonable doubt for your client if they withhold that evidence and they don't ever give it to the prosecutor, or the prosecutor doesn't give it to you. So when there's evidence withheld that is exculpatory, that's a Frank. You have a Frank hearing to see that. And if they withheld evidence and somehow they also, 2 days ago, they also wanted the affidavit, the warrant to search his house, to say that was insufficient because they didn't really have the information they needed, and they sort of made that up. See, there's all kinds of problems. Reminds me a little bit of the Becky Hill thing in the Murdaugh case, which somebody doesn't have to be bad or knowingly commit a crime to do something that can really screw up what should be fair proceedings, in my opinion. So in this Delphi case, maybe they just so badly wanted to find somebody that they overstepped and didn't just, this is the guy. In fact, right as they named that they had, the one guy, Richard Allen, which didn't look like really any of the things. And did you know he's 5'2" or 5'4"? He's a really short guy. And anyway, his team, they set out eight reasons why. And I transitioned this from the Tim Ballard thing by saying when religion and state becomes too mixed. Well, apparently in and around Delphi, there is an Aryan white nationalist Odin religion problem. And to the point where I guess there are guards wearing Odin patches, and they showed them on Facebook. And I think his lawyers got pictures of the guards wearing it. And now the guards aren't wearing it in the prison anymore. But also the warden said that the lawyers can't bring their phones in anymore, which sketch. And there's all these cases. Peter Tragos ran down the 8 major points. And some of them, the first one was that Odinism, this Odin religion, Odin is the Greek is the god for the Norse, which were the Vikings, Scandinavian god back in, almost prehistory. And this is where, Thor, the hammer, Valhalla, if any of those things sound familiar to you, that's the religion it came from. And it's very ancient. Now, white nationalism feels like, the blondes, the Aryan race. Hitler believed that they were from this area. It has been tied, because people like Odin, that's a character. This sounds like a movie. This sounds like anime. Unfortunately, these people have committed terrorist acts on U.S. soil and in Norway, and it's more white nationalism and nationalistic and racist, basically, than it is really about believing in these god and goddesses. But like some very ancient religions, it's more an eye for an eye type thing, and supposedly, allegedly, it appeals to people who are more violent because it is very vengeful and very, you know what I mean? I will take my revenge on you. And it's good to be that way. And so you can see where that might play into people who believe they are the one and only and they are better than everybody else and they are destined and all that other crap, as opposed to saying sorry. What I feel like is, I forget who was the person to say it, but I always do the quote of, when somebody goes, "Who are you?" I'm nobody. Who are you? I mean, we're all just, we look different, but in essence, we are all the same. I mean, we're different, but nobody is better, really. We all have gifts and we all have bad things about ourselves. So it's weird when people feel like whatever, but the most insecure people need something like that, right? And groups and gangs follow. There are a lot of bike gangs that um, are odinistic as well. So this is not something that is unusual. And the reason they brought it up in this case in Delphi was they said that there were symbols. Now, we didn't hear a lot about the scene, and I haven't read the whole 136 pages, but apparently it describes it in graphic detail. There were so many. Do you know what runes are? If you watch Tolkien used old Viking sort of runes, Runes, if you look at Tolkien, he writes with runes, he calls it elfin language, and the runes alphabet. That is what some of those, I guess, they found at the scene. Also, we did hear the girls were posed, and we heard that there was a ritualistic aspect to it. Well, the symbols looked like runes, Odinism, and the defense team was trying to get information that they heard. So there are 3 police that are retired now. One was killed by I guess a federal guard, supposedly in a prison, which, when you know about the people wearing the things, that's a little off. But 3 guys, a retired assistant deputy or a retired deputy, Click and Ferris and Murphy. They're retired now, but they were following up on this Odin thing, and they said the FBI said that it looked like this too, that there was a behavioral unit. Now, his team, Richard Allen's team, is like, he doesn't have any connection to Odinism, and we didn't get this information. There was an 85-page report that Click wrote that detailed all this and about the FBI profile. They never got that from law enforcement. Didn't hear anything about it. And then law enforcement was like, "Oh, well, we had this professor, yeah, from Purdue, and he looked at it and he said, no, that has nothing to do with Odinism." And they're like, "Well, where's his report? And who is he? What's his name? And what's his specialty? Like what department?" Because they need to depose him then. And they don't have any of that information. And I don't know if you guys remember the Barry Morphew um, preliminary hearing, but the judge started throwing out a lot, even if the guy who did the dogs was there, but he was like, "Did he write a report?" "No, can't do anything with it. It's out." And he was like, "No report, wrong report, didn't write it the right way. It's out." So these people don't even have a name, let alone any report. Just, no, we have this professor of Norse, a professor of classics, a professor of religion, history, math. Anyways, that's weird. There's all these like weird things that it seems, allegedly, right? This is all from the defense thing, but they were providing pictures. They were providing statements taken under oath. And Peter Tragos did point out, they can't just lie. If they made up evidence and lied, they can get disbarred. So this is not something just to try like a Hail Mary. They said that they had a name of a suspect, and the name of the guy, I don't want to say it because it's in the thing and other YouTubers are talking about it, so you can know, but I'll just tell you, not only is he known to be practicing Odinism, but this is crazy, he is the father of a boy that was dating one of the girls. So he has a connection, a direct connection. think it was Abby, but it may have been Libby. So there were also 92 things that were done at the scene that they're saying there's no way Richard Allen could have done these things by himself. And again, I haven't read it, but apparently it describes exactly how the girls were killed and what order they were killed. And it wasn't fast. So somebody took their time doing this. And that's why they feel it's a ritualistic killing, which Odinites historically were known for doing. More recently, besides the terrorism part, they would sacrifice animals. Now, but in terrorism, are you sacrificing people? Maybe that's part of it. I can't say that conclusively, but I will tell you more about that, and it's really heavy. But the point is, there were other people. We always thought there was more than one person. You know, Richard Allen didn't really match the faces, and they were like, it's this guy. No, it's not this guy now. It's this younger guy that we have. And that guy had, maybe he had like a jacket on that looked plaid that they got. And then they're like, well, no, we're going to mix it. Like, and the bullet that was there, now they're saying that bullet, they don't have evidence that it was bagged and tagged. They don't have like somebody picking it up and putting it in the, like typically you take pictures of every little thing. So they have a gun wasn't used, and they have a bullet that supposedly was cycled through his weapon. But anyway, they pointed out that a man who was overweight and 5'4", and there was no way he had time to do everything that was done. Wade through, you know, it was still February, even though it was warm that day. He had to wade through 2 feet of water. He had to, there were some branches cut and I guess put in some specific ways, and they had like nice clean cuts. And he wasn't carrying a saw. So how did he make branches with clean cuts? It all seems like something's off. And then the car, he was driving a black, I think Ford Focus. And they said, yeah, that car was gone by 1:30. The other car that was there wasn't a Ford Focus. It was another car. But then they're like, well, maybe she misunderstood it. And so maybe he wasn't even there at the time, but it doesn't fit the timeline if it's not his black car. They like just left out a bunch of other cars that were there apparently. So the judge is going to look at it. We will hear more. I'm sure there's going to be argument. It'll probably be, I don't know what they're going to do, if they're going to seal it or not. So that document, the 136-page document, was let out and not sealed. And I don't know if you remember, they did something like this before in Delphi. So somebody like me must be running their tech show, somebody older who's not really savvy and was like, oops, sorry, I should have kept that over here. I didn't mean to let it out into the internet. So unfortunately, that is now out. So that is the skinny for what has gone on today. So the Delphi case, people are going to be talking way more. We probably won't hear more about the Bronx daycare case until they catch the husband, but otherwise we will hear about that again when there's a trial. And the Tim Ballard thing, go read that Vice article. Again, it speaks to what is going on in Utah. Now, the Mormon Church this time, maybe with the Frankie case and with the Vallow case and crazy Lori Vallow saying all that stuff about Nephi, and maybe they are wanting to take a step back from these people who are going a little cuckoo for coconuts and not wanting to be involved. So it was nice that they gave a statement to reporters saying we're no longer involved with this guy. So he was going to become a senator and probably would have, but without the church's support, maybe he won't. And that's the thing. A church isn't supposed to A, support a single candidate, and B, you don't want one religion becoming a state religion, which is what has happened in Utah, because then it breeds all these problems. And it actually causes the religion a problem. Like the normal people in the religion have a problem with people who get out of hand. And then is the religion, like they're trying to step in and do things to take care of problem people instead of the law, because the lawmakers and the police are also part of the religion. And it gets like this. And then, I don't know if you guys remember that Sharia law everybody was yelling about when it was Islamic, and women were going to have to be a certain way, and there'd be all these religious rules. Well, any religion can be like that. And when you have the state being the religion, you get some screwed up stuff happening because religion can't be the state. Religion's religion. And forgiveness is great, but when you breed a thing where people know they're not really going to get in trouble. Hi, Jody Hillebrand. Hi, Lori Vallow. Telling the police whatever you want. Getting away with murder. Literally. Anyways, love religion. And I believe we are the government because it's we the people. We have to be involved. But bringing religion into government causes crazy stuff, and making the government religious doesn't seem to work out great, at least for kids and women. So anyways, those are my thoughts, and I will see you guys. I'm over time. It's 41 minutes. Sorry. I will see you tomorrow, and we'll see what happens on the True Crime Grapevine. If you have, you could like and subscribe if you want. You don't have to, but it would be helpful to my channel. But that's okay. We don't need to be getting too much attention because, look what that did for Ruby Frankie and Heather McDonald. And I don't know, you name the person who crashed and burned because they got too big for their britches and thought, or got too dependent on their followers. So I don't hardly have any. So I'm here just for you. So tell me if you want to hear a case. I will look it up and let you know tomorrow. Stop by anytime. You don't have to join and subscribe. You don't have to give me a thumbs up. It would be nice if you could, but you don't have to. Don't worry about it. Just trying to catch you up on what's going on the Grapevine. So that was the True Crime Goss, and I got to get back to my crime kitties. So I will see you tomorrow. Bye.